I want to talk to you today about something that's become genuinely important for a great many older adults' hearts, and that's surprisingly underappreciated: the effect of too much sitting, of prolonged sedentary time on your heart and health, and why it matters even if you exercise. Because people tend to think that as long as they do some exercise, the rest of the day doesn't matter. Or they don't realize that long hours of sitting, common in later life, carry their own health risks for the heart and beyond. So today I want to explain why too much sitting is bad for the heart, the surprising finding that prolonged sitting carries risk even in people who exercise, why this matters especially for older adults, and the practical ways to sit less and move more through the day, in partnership with your doctor. And I'll keep this calm and practical because while too much sitting genuinely matters, the remedy, breaking up sitting and moving more through the day, is simple and achievable. And understanding it lets you protect your heart in a way many people overlook, alongside the other measures and your doctor's care. This is about a genuine, underappreciated risk and a simple, doable remedy. Let me start with why too much sitting is bad for the heart and health, because understanding it shows why it matters. Prolonged sitting, long periods of being sedentary with little movement, is increasingly recognized as carrying health risks of its own, including for the heart and cardiovascular system. When you sit for long periods, your muscles are inactive, your circulation slows, and the body's normal metabolic processes are reduced, and over time, a lot of sedentary time is associated with higher risk of heart disease, as well as other conditions, like diabetes and others, and with poorer health overall. So, prolonged sitting isn't just a neutral absence of exercise. It's increasingly understood to be actively associated with worse cardiovascular and metabolic health through the effects of all that inactivity on the muscles, circulation, and metabolism. This is why too much sitting matters for the heart, beyond just not getting exercise. So too much sitting is bad for the heart because prolonged inactivity slows the circulation and metabolism, and is associated with higher cardiovascular and metabolic risk, making sedentary time an active health concern, not just a neutral lack of exercise. So understanding that prolonged sitting actively harms the heart is the foundation. So too much sitting actively harms cardiovascular health. Let me give you the surprising and important finding: that prolonged sitting carries risk even if you exercise. Here's the genuinely surprising and important point that many people don't know. The risks of prolonged sitting appear to apply even to people who exercise regularly. So a daily walk or workout doesn't fully cancel out the harm of sitting for many hours the rest of the day. In other words, you can be someone who exercises and still be harmed by too much sedentary time, because the long hours of sitting carry their own risk that the exercise doesn't entirely offset. This is important because it corrects the common assumption that exercise alone is enough and the rest of the day doesn't matter, showing that both regular exercise and reducing prolonged sitting matter as somewhat separate things. So the surprising, important finding is that prolonged sitting carries health risk even in people who exercise regularly. So exercise alone doesn't fully cancel the harm of too much sitting, meaning both exercising and sitting less matter. This is exactly why sitting less, on top of exercising, is genuinely worth attention. So even regular exercisers need to sit less, which is the surprising key. So exercise doesn't fully offset too much sitting. Let me explain why this matters especially for older adults, because sedentary time often increases in later life. This matters particularly for older adults because sitting time often increases with age. People may become less active, spend more time sitting watching television, resting, or being sedentary, and may sit for very long stretches. So older adults are often among the most sedentary, putting them at particular risk from prolonged sitting. At the same time, as I've discussed, prolonged sitting in older adults also contributes to the muscle weakness, stiffness, and decline that threaten mobility and independence, and worsens the getting up stiff and deconditioning problems. So too much sitting harms older adults both through the cardiovascular and metabolic risks and through accelerating physical decline, while also affecting mood and well-being. So reducing sitting and moving more is especially valuable for older adults who tend to sit the most and have the most to lose from it, both for the heart and for maintaining strength, mobility, and independence. So too much sitting matters especially for older adults who often sit the most and suffer both cardiovascular harm and accelerated physical decline from it, making sitting less especially valuable for them. So older adults especially benefit from sitting less. So the sedentary risk is especially relevant in later life. Let me give you the practical ways to sit less and move more, because the remedy is simple and achievable. The key remedy for prolonged sitting is not necessarily intense exercise, but simply breaking up your sitting with regular movement and reducing your overall sedentary time. First, and most importantly, break up prolonged sitting. Rather than sitting for hours unbroken, get up and move regularly, ideally every half hour or so, even just to stand, stretch, walk to another room, or move about for a few minutes. Since regularly interrupting sitting is itself beneficial and counters much of the harm, so the simple habit of getting up regularly is genuinely powerful. Second, reduce your overall sitting time where you can. Stand or move during activities you'd normally sit through, like standing during television advertisements or phone calls, and look for chances to be on your feet. Third, build more movement into your day generally. Walk more, do light activity and chores, and move about, since all movement counts, not just formal exercise. Fourth, combine this with regular exercise like the walking I've discussed, since both sitting less and exercising matter. And fifth, set reminders or cues to get up regularly if you tend to lose track. So, breaking up prolonged sitting by getting up and moving every half hour or so, reducing overall sitting time, building more movement into your day, combining it with regular exercise, and using reminders all sensibly reduce the harm of too much sitting. So the simple, powerful remedy is to break up sitting and move more through the day. So breaking up sitting and moving more is the achievable remedy. Let me give you some practical ideas for older adults specifically, because making this work day to day helps. For older adults, some practical ways to sit less and move more include getting up during each television program or at the advertisements, since long television watching is a common source of prolonged sitting. Standing or walking while on the phone. Doing light household tasks and pottering about rather than sitting for long stretches. Taking short walks through the day, even around the home or garden. Standing up and moving whenever you've been sitting a while, perhaps tied to regular cues like the clock or program changes. And doing gentle movements or standing exercises during sedentary time. The aim isn't to never sit, which isn't realistic or necessary, but to avoid the long, unbroken stretches of sitting and to weave more movement through the day. And as I've discussed, this regular movement also helps with stiffness, strength, and circulation, so it serves multiple purposes. So practical ways for older adults to sit less: getting up during television, standing for phone calls, doing light tasks, taking short walks, and moving whenever you've sat a while. Weave more movement through the day and counter the harm of prolonged sitting, serving the heart, strength, and mobility together. So practical, achievable habits help older adults sit less and move more. So everyday habits make sitting less achievable. Let me explain why this matters and is worth the effort. Because the benefit is real and the remedy easy. Reducing prolonged sitting matters because too much sedentary time genuinely raises cardiovascular and metabolic risk, even in those who exercise. So addressing it removes a real, often overlooked source of harm, on top of the benefits of exercise. And it matters especially for older adults who tend to sit the most and who gain doubly from sitting less, protecting both their hearts and their strength, mobility, and independence, while also benefiting mood and circulation. And the remedy is genuinely easy and achievable, simply breaking up sitting and moving more, requiring no special equipment or intense effort. So the benefit is available to almost anyone. So reducing prolonged sitting matters because it removes a real, overlooked cardiovascular risk that exercise alone doesn't fully offset, because it especially benefits older adults' hearts and physical function, and because the remedy is simple and achievable, all of which makes sitting less and moving more a genuinely worthwhile, easy addition to heart care. This is exactly why understanding the harm of too much sitting and the simple remedy is valuable, especially for older adults. So sitting less is a worthwhile, easy way to protect the heart and more. So the real benefit and easy remedy make it worthwhile. Let me be clear about how this fits with the rest of heart care and your doctor, because it's one part. Reducing sitting is a worthwhile addition, but it works alongside, not instead of, regular exercise and the other heart measures and your doctor's care. So both sit less and exercise, since both matter, combining breaking up your sedentary time with regular activity like walking, alongside not smoking, a healthy diet, healthy weight, managing blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes, and your doctor's care. If you have a heart condition, significant health problems, or limited mobility, or are unsure how to be more active, check with your doctor, who can advise on safe ways to move more and reduce sitting for your situation. And a physical therapist can help those with mobility limitations move more safely. And as always, the warning signs during activity I've discussed apply, though simply breaking up sitting with gentle movement is safe and beneficial for almost everyone. So reduce sitting alongside regular exercise and the broader heart measures with your doctor's guidance if you have heart conditions or mobility limitations, as one valuable part of comprehensive heart care. So sitting less is one valuable part of and works within your overall heart care. So combine sitting less with the rest of heart care. Let me paint you a picture of how this helps. Picture a man in his 70s who takes a daily walk and so assumes he's covered his activity, but who then spends most of the rest of his day sitting, hours in front of the television, sitting to read, rest, and pass the time with long, unbroken, sedentary stretches, not realizing this carries its own risk despite his walk. In the unaware version, his many hours of sitting harm his heart and health and accelerate his stiffness and decline, even though he exercises, because his walk doesn't fully offset all that sitting. Now picture him understanding the surprising truth. He learns that prolonged sitting carries risk even for people who exercise, so sitting less matters on top of his walk. So he keeps his daily walk, but also breaks up his sitting. He gets up and moves every half hour or so, stands during television advertisements and phone calls, potters about with light tasks, and takes short extra walks through the day. His sedentary time drops. His circulation and metabolism benefit. His heart risk is reduced beyond what his walk alone gave. And, as a bonus, his stiffness eases and his strength and mobility improve from all the extra movement. The same man, but understanding that sitting less matters even for exercisers, protected his heart and health in a way he'd have otherwise overlooked. That contrast is exactly why understanding the harm of too much sitting and the easy remedy matters. So breaking up his sitting protected his heart beyond his daily walk. And let me speak directly to those of you caring for or close to an older person, because too much sitting is common in later life, and you can help. Understand that prolonged sitting genuinely harms the heart and health, that this risk applies even to people who exercise, so a daily walk doesn't fully offset hours of sitting, and that older adults, who often sit the most, are especially affected, both for the heart and through accelerated stiffness and decline. You can help by encouraging and supporting sitting less and moving more through the day, prompting getting up and moving regularly, perhaps every half hour, breaking up long television watching with standing or movement, encouraging light tasks, short walks, and standing for phone calls, and weaving more movement through the day, perhaps moving together. Combine this with encouraging regular exercise like walking, since both matter, and the broader heart measures. If they have heart conditions or mobility limitations, support checking with their doctor on safe ways to move more, and a physical therapist can help. Helping a loved one sit less and move more through the day protects their heart in an overlooked way and benefits their strength, mobility, and well-being too, with a simple, achievable remedy. So your help encouraging less sitting and more movement genuinely benefits them. Let me draw this all together. Too much sitting, prolonged sedentary time, is a genuine and underappreciated risk to the heart and health. Prolonged sitting slows the circulation and metabolism and is associated with higher cardiovascular and metabolic risk. So it's an active health concern, not just a neutral lack of exercise. The surprising, important finding is that this risk applies even to people who exercise regularly, so a daily walk doesn't fully cancel the harm of sitting for many hours, meaning both exercising and sitting less matter. This matters especially for older adults, who often sit the most and gain doubly from sitting less, protecting both their hearts and their strength, mobility, and independence. The remedy is simple and achievable. Break up prolonged sitting by getting up and moving every half hour or so. Reduce overall sitting time. Build more movement into your day. Combine it with regular exercise, and use reminders with practical habits like getting up during television, standing for phone calls, light tasks, and short walks. This matters because it removes a real overlooked risk that exercise alone doesn't fully offset, especially benefits older adults, and is easy to do, so it's a worthwhile addition to heart care, alongside regular exercise and the broader measures with your doctor's guidance if you have heart conditions or mobility limitations. So here's what I'll leave you with. First, understand that too much sitting, prolonged sedentary time, genuinely harms your heart and health, slowing your circulation and metabolism and raising cardiovascular and metabolic risk. So it's an active concern, not just a neutral lack of exercise. Second, know the surprising important point. This risk applies even if you exercise regularly, so a daily walk doesn't fully cancel the harm of sitting for many hours, meaning both exercising and sitting less matter as somewhat separate things. Third, understand that this matters especially for you as an older adult, since sitting time often increases with age, and prolonged sitting harms older adults both through cardiovascular risk and through accelerating stiffness, weakness, and decline. So sitting less is especially valuable. Fourth, apply the simple, achievable remedy. Break up prolonged sitting by getting up and moving every half hour or so, even just to stand, stretch, or walk about. Reduce your overall sitting time and weave more movement through your day, with practical habits like getting up during television programs or advertisements, standing for phone calls, doing light tasks, and taking short walks. And fifth, combine sitting less with regular exercise like walking, since both matter, alongside the broader heart measures, and check with your doctor if you have heart conditions or mobility limitations on safe ways to move more. Reducing prolonged sitting and moving more through the day protects your heart in an overlooked way that exercise alone doesn't fully cover, and benefits your strength, mobility, and well-being too, with a simple, achievable remedy. So it's well worth understanding and doing. So take care of yourself. Sit less, move more through the day. Keep exercising too, and check with your doctor where relevant. And because being more active with heart conditions or mobility limitations can require guidance, please treat how to safely move more, if you have such conditions, as something to discuss with your own physician or a physical therapist, alongside the broader heart measures, rather than as a substitute for that care.